Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Thank you. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacha Dasa Dasa Shri Srimad The Divine Grace of Bhaya Charanvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki BBT Founder Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Savior of the whole world the Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Nitya Lila Vishnu Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacha Dasa Dasa Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki, Prem Se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasi Gopati Vrinda ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaur Premanandi. All glory to you, some of the devotees. All glory to you, some of the devotees. All glory to you, some of the devotees. All glory to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. Continued reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Additional Pastimes. Now on chapter 4. A little too loud on the house mic. Chapter 4 is titled A Summer in Montreal, June 3rd, 1968. In Montreal, Prabhupada often sang a Sanskrit prayer composed by a great Vaishnav king, Kula Shekhar. While walking around his room, sitting at his desk, or roaming through the house, he would sing to himself, and the others would hear him. He would chant it as a Sanskrit mantra, but to a tune of his own in a voice that dropped to a deep, low tone at the end of a line. Krishna Todeya Padapankaja Panjarantam Adhyayavame Vishatumana Saraja Hansa Rana Prayana Samaye Kapavata Pita Kantavarodana Vidos Maranya Kutaste. In India, almost 20 years ago, Prabhupada had translated and written commentary on this and several other verses, the prayers of King Kula Shekhar, for his Back to Godhead newspaper. So 20 years ago means 1948. Now, during the summer of 1968, while still recovering from his heart attack of a year ago, he sang this particular verse often. And several times he explained its meaning to the devotees gathered in his room in the evening. Quote, swans have a proclivity to stick their long necks underwater and wrap them around the stem of the lotus flower. So King Kula Shekhar is praying, my dear Krishna, may the swan of my mind enter the network of the stem of your lotus feet. He is praying to do so now at the present moment while he is healthy and can chant Hare Krishna and entangle his mind in Krishna thought. Therefore, King Kula Shekhar wishes that he may die immediately because he fears that if he waits until later, when the time of death comes, he will be choking. The elements of his body will be disturbed, and it will be a death rattle like gar, gar. How will it be possible then to remember Krishna? Prabhupada's health, however, had improved, rising early, dictating Srimad Bhagavatam, going for morning walks, taking full lunch. He was the healthiest he had been in months. After lunch, he would nap. At least he would try, although many of the floorboards in the house would squeak loudly when stepped on. Later in the afternoon, he would often ask for watermelon or cantaloupe, and in the evening, either he would meet with devotees in his room or go to the temple for kirtan and a lecture. After returning at night, he would call for that puffed rice set. Puffed rice, fried peanuts, fried potatoes, and slices of cucumber. Take note. So Srila Prabhupada is well. Yet more than once he remarked to his servants, if I become sick, do not take me to the hospital. Simply let me chant Hare Krishna and die. The summer of 1968 was a relaxed time without many outside engagements. Prabhupada would spend most of his time in his apartment on Prince Arthur Street, a 5-minute walk from the temple. In his room, he would often meet with disciples visiting from various centers in the United States. Sometimes he would sit in a chair on the front lawn, speaking to visitors, or in the later morning sit out in the back in the driveway while Gaura Sundar massaged him. One day while Prabhupada sat in the warm, late morning sun, some of his disciples came and sat on the ground at his feet. The sunshine is so powerful, Prabhupada explained. There are planets where the trees are miles tall, just being supported by the sunshine. And all the planets are supported by the sunshine, It is so powerful. Srila Prabhupada ki. The next chapter. Okay, we can read this one part here because it's something that we have in the museum here. One of Prabhupada's reasons for coming to Canada was to get a permanent residency status in both Canada and the United States. While in Boston, he had received an order of denial from the Immigration Department, directing him to leave the country. For the past 3 years, except for 6 months in India, Prabhupada had managed to extend his stay in the U.S. by extending his temporary visa. But now, on a technicality, he had been denied permanent residency. From Montreal, he wrote the district director of the U.S. Immigration in Boston. In your order of denial, you have clearly mentioned in paragraph 4 that your denial order was not on the basis of my qualification of religious minister, but on your discretion for the reason that I submitted my application just after a fortnight on my arrival in the USA, and as such, I was not a bona fide immigrant. I did not know what was the technical mistake on my part in this connection, but I honestly submitted the application after consulting your Calcutta American Consulate and our Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C., and I have their letters of confirmation with me. In your notice of denial of May 3, 1968, you have mentioned that there is no appeal for this decision. As such, I did not prefer to appeal in this decision, but I left the USA as per your direction. Now I am simply requesting you to give me your valued direction what to do next. But if you go into Prabhupada's museum, as soon as you enter onto the left, you'll see Prabhupada's framed green card, issued in Montreal in 1968. So we'll see a little later on how he was successful in that endeavor by Krishna's mercy. So there, Prabhupada received his green card, except it's not green. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 8th Chapter, Text 79, chapter titled, Dhruva Maharaj Leaves Home. Yadaika Padena Sapati Varbakas. Yadaika Padena Sapati Varbakas. Tasto Tarangushta Nipidita Mahi. Tasto Tarangushta Nipidita Mahi. Nipidita Mahi. We'll have to try that one again. Tasto Tarangushta Nipidita Mahi. Anyone want to try to say that 3 times fast? Ananama tatardam ibendradishtita. Nanama tatradam ibendradishtita. Tariva savyetara tak pade pade. Tariva sadvetara Savyetara tak pade pade. Please chant. Yadaika padena sapatida vikas. Tasto tarangusha nipidita mahi. Nanama tatardam vibendradishtita. Tariva sadyetara tak pade pade. Yadaika padena sapati varpakas. Tasto tarangushta nipidita mahi. Nanama tatradami benjadishtita. Tariva savyetara tak pade pade. Yadaikapadena sapati varbakas. Dasto tarangushti nipidita mahi. Nanama tatradami benjudishtita. Yadaikapadena sapati varbakas. Dastotarangushti nipidita mahi. Nanama tatradami benjudushtita. Yadaikapadena sapati varbakas. Dasto tarangushta nipidita mahi. Nanama tatradami benjadishtita. Tariva savyetaratak pade pade. Yadaikapadena sapati varbakas. Dasto tarangushta nipidita mahi. Nanama tatradami bhenjadishtita. Tariva savyetaratak pade pade. Yada, when, eka, with one, padena, leg, sa, Dhruva Maharaj, Parthiva, the kings, Arbakaha, child, Tashto, remained standing, Tat Angushta, his big toe, Nipidita, being pressed, Mahi, the earth, Nanama, bent down, Tatra, then, Ardham, half, Ibaindra, the king of elephants, Dishtita, being situated, Tari Eva, like a boat, Savya right and left, Pade Pade, in every step. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As Dhruva Maharaj, the king's son, kept himself steadily standing on one leg, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth, just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with his every step. Please repeat. As Dhruva Maharaj, the king's son, kept himself steadily standing on one leg, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth, just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with his every step. Purport. The most significant expression in this verse is Parthivarbhakaha, son of the king. When Dhruva Maharaj was at home, although he was a king's son, he was prevented from getting on the lap of his father. But when he became advanced in self-realization or devotional service, by the pressure of his toe, he could push down the whole earth. That is the difference between ordinary consciousness and Krishna consciousness. In ordinary consciousness, a king's son may be refused something even by his father. But when the same person becomes fully Krishna conscious within his heart, it can push down the earth with the pressure of his toe. One cannot argue, how is it that Dhruva Maharaj, who was prevented from getting up on the lap of his father, could press down the whole earth? This argument is not very much appreciated by the learned, for it is an example of Nagna Matriksha logic. By this logic, one would think that because his mother in her childhood was naked, she should remain naked even when she is grown up. The stepmother of Dhruva Maharaj might have been thinking in a similar way. Since she had refused to allow him to get up on the lap of his father, how could Dhruva perform such wonderful activities as pressing down the whole earth? She must have been very surprised when she learned that Dhruva Maharaj, by concentrating constantly on the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart, could press down the entire earth like an elephant who presses down the boat on which it is loaded. Om Jnana Tvaranda Shagananjala Shlakaya Chakshor Mlatamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankai Tegaram Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. So Prabhupada always gives us the benefit of the essence. So here he says that the most significant expression in this verse is Parthi Varbhakaha, son of the king. Because this defines the purport that Prabhupada is giving us to distinguish this from just simply a story. You know, these narrations at times resemble a continuous flow of, how can you say, episodes in the history of the various planets, luminaries, personalities, and they're not chronological, as Prabhupada has mentioned. We understand that the Bhagavatam has a long history, not just on this planet, but on other planets as well, where it's expanded from, 100,000 verses to 100 million verses. Who knows how it can expand? We cannot hardly comprehend even 18,000 verses, what to speak of 100,000 verses. But yet this information, just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta one time commented that someone was questioning, how can you write a newspaper every day and fill it with information related to the transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead and his various incarnations? And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta replied that there is unlimited information. We can barely touch the surface. So what to speak of one newspaper? You could have hundreds of thousands of newspapers. So because this info, but where our perspective is limited, so therefore we impose that limitation on everything we come in contact with. We think this person cannot do it, therefore he cannot do it, she cannot do it, I cannot do it. But we saw that, in the previous shloka, Prabhupada was saying, in the purport of verse 71, the significance of this particular verse, and Prabhupada's always giving us some expert, and that verse was, Dhruva Maharaj, having arrived at Madhavan, took his bath at the river Jamuna and observed fasting in the night with great care and attention. After that, as advised by the great sage Narada, he engaged himself in worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada says, the significance of this particular verse is that Dhruva Maharaj acted exactly according to the advice of his spiritual master, the great sage Narada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also advises that if we want to be successful in our attempt to go back to Godhead, we must very seriously act according to the instruction of the spiritual master. That is the way of perfection. There used to be no anxiety over attaining perfection. There need be no anxiety over attaining perfection, because if one follows the instruction given by the spiritual master, he is sure to attain perfection. Our only concern should be how to execute the order of the spiritual master. A spiritual master is expert in giving special instructions to each of his disciples. And if the disciple executes the order of the spiritual master, that is the way of his perfection. So we see in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, he was given specific instructions and he followed them exactly. In our case, someone may say, well, I have not received any direct instructions. But yet Prabhupada has given everyone direct instructions, either directly or through his authorized representatives, through his books, through his lectures. If one is listening to his lectures and he hears these instructions, and if they don't resonate within him and give him the impetus to follow, then it could be understood that is not sufficiently purified. Srinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Bhadrantas. The heart has to be cleansed. And this cleansing activity, of course, is the opportunity that the spiritual master has given in such a facility, where he said that the only reason we have temples is in order to make devotees. And how are we making them? We're not making them by some factory assembly line. It's not that they come in the door and we press them in a certain way and put them in a mold, and then all of a sudden this person you're now a devotee. Prabhupada said rubber stamp. No, this is not by rubber stamp. The opportunity is there for everyone to take according to his desire, to immerse himself to the degree that he feels impelled. Not everyone is coming with the same level of agyata sukriti. Different people are coming according to their previous activities, shuchinam, shrimatam, gehe, yoga, brashtak. Everyone has come in contact with devotional service previously. That is the qualification, how he has come now. Very rare that someone comes without some. It's not impossible, but it's very rare. So this, in one sense, is also an encouragement and an impetus that let me, like King Kulashekar, let me not become disturbed or distracted. Now that I've come to Krishna consciousness, let me fully concentrate in this lifetime. This is the moment of awareness. Everyone has had that moment of awareness that now I have come into a situation where I can fulfill the destiny of human life. It is not able in any other. You can't do this by becoming a policeman, a fireman, a doctor, a lawyer. All these things are taken as great achievements in material life. Everyone's parents want them to become a doctor. Is that correct? Where's the Bhai Govinda? He's taking care of Maharaj. Right? The parents want. One time my godbrother Toshan Krishna, he joined also San Francisco in 1968. So he went to Prabhupada. He comes from a family of physicians. So he was also in medical school, pre-med. So he went to Srila Prabhupada and asked him, Srila Prabhupada, should I continue my studies as a doctor? My whole family, they're doctors. They want me to be a doctor. I'm in medical school. And Prabhupada said, we have enough doctors of medicine. We need doctors of the soul, doctors of the spirit. So at that point, he gave up his studies and joined the temple full-time. So this is a situation. Yes, we have some pious credits, but don't waste those pious credits on some foolishness. Sometimes someone wins the lottery, and it is a statistical fact that people who win the lottery, sometimes they're not qualified to have this windfall. And so they waste it recklessly and become again poverty-stricken, or worse, dead. Because they indulge excessively. They're not able to handle it. But that was their karma to get it, but they could not use it properly. So our situation is that we have been given much more than a so-called lottery windfall. We've been given the opportunity to achieve the highest level of human existence, to become fully Krishna conscious, to go back home, back to Godhead. And this is not just an aphorism, or some catchphrase. that someone may say that you people, you're all brainwashed. What is this back to Godhead business? But due to a poor fund of knowledge, they have no access to the information. Just like there's a story of the prodigal son in the Bible. But what is the purport? The prodigal son didn't realize that he's technically coming from a very wealthy family. And he left that place. And the father, of course, is lamenting that my son is gone, my son is gone. But eventually he comes back. And he again takes up his rightful position as the heir of the family and adopts his, whatever you want to call his lineage. So in this way, there's that verse, Tatenu Kampam Susamikshimano. So everyone knows that they have the greatest inheritance waiting for them in the form of the benefit of going back home, back to Godhead. And this is not just, this is like someone may present, people are always trying to get clicks on social media. And so they have travel logs where people will go to, and you'll see sometimes it comes up in your feed, the secret places of New York City. And what is that secret place? It's just, you go up into a building and you can go to the 57th floor and there's a free panoramic lobby. You didn't have to pay $50 to go to the top of the Empire State Building. So that we have also many secrets. We have the secret of how to go back home, back to Godhead. And yes, it is a secret. But that's an open secret that anyone who comes in contact with the Srimad Bhagavatam, this now we could say 4,500 to 5,000-year-old literature, that this information herein will immediately give one the opportunity to liberate himself from material consciousness. And free from that material consciousness, his mind will be able to, like King Kulashekar, meditate on the personality of Godhead, his pastimes, his instructions, and to go back home, back to Godhead, back to our eternal abode. Right? So this, of course, it's not an ordinary thing. There's, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's many qualifications that one has to, yesham twantakatam papam jananam punya karmanam, that one has to become free from all sinful activities. And so therefore we're given these instructions at the time of initiation. No intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no flesh foods, no meat eating, all flesh. Fish, this, that, eggs, everything, no flesh foods. So then one can come to this platform, and then he's eligible. This is the beginning eligibility for knowledge. Just like prereq, you have to go to pre-med, like Toshan Krishnabu. It's not that you go immediately into the residency, or you go into your, like this. You have to go through so many steps before you even begin to get the higher information required to become a doctor. So this is, and we see Dhruva Maharaj, such a wonderful story. And Prabhupada explains it so carefully, how that he's accessing just by his linking up with the totality of existence. Therefore, from within, that has created this oneness with the Supreme Parabrahman that allows him to have that effect on the earth, that simply by his presence of his big toe, that the earth can become imbalanced. Because it is as if the Supreme Personality of Godhead had decided himself to touch the earth. So that was the connection. Because this connection is just to emphasize how the Supreme Lord manifests in such a way within our hearts to accomplish some wonderful thing. This is just an example, just like when the Lord showed Arjuna his universal form. The universal form has no particular function. It is not there to descend on the earth, yada yada dharma, glanir bhavati bhava. It is not some scheduled incarnation. There is no planet of the universal form in the spiritual sky. But the Lord manifested this just to show Arjuna his glory. Because Arjuna, not Arjuna, but for our understanding, because Arjuna could understand, but in order for us to understand how, with just a fraction, Krishna is manifesting everything. Simultaneously, not sequentially, simultaneously, everything is going on. This is the inconceivable nature of that concept of infinite existence and execution. You know, this is a concept that's very difficult. Who can understand what is infinity? You know, because of our position, we have no ability to grasp it because we are not infinite. So we can only appreciate the basic aspect of this concept. That yes, something without beginning and end. But aside from that, how does something without beginning and end manifest? You know, so therefore people are confused, and rightly so, until they come to the Krishna consciousness movement in order to get that knowledge which transcends this material concept of infinity, where they can understand the source of everything. Source of all material and spiritual information, situated in the heart. What's that verse? I'll remember it. But anyway, we heard that I'm the source of all spiritual material world. Everything emanates from me. Aham Sivasya Prabhavam Matak Sarvam Prabhadate Etima Tvabhajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvata. Buddha Bhava. So you're all Buddha Bhava Samanvata. We understand that Buddha is a title given to someone who becomes fully enlightened. Right? So the incarnation of Krishna as Buddha is one who is fully enlightened. So this is something that we can appreciate, you know, conceptually. And if one studies carefully, he can even understand who is that person who is fully enlightened. So we saw that from Srila Prabhupada's example, that here is a person who is fully enlightened. How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he sit? All these things are there for our benefit so that we are not cheated. Because now we see, especially in the current situation, there's many people who are posing themselves as enlightened in order to fool some cheap followers into giving their money or their time or their whatever. And Srila Prabhupada condemns such persons because this is the height of, you can say, rascaldom. That people will cheat you out of your spiritual inheritance and put you back in the cycle of birth and death. And what is that in the Ishopanishad? The killer of the soul. That person is described as the killer of the soul. The soul cannot be killed, we know that. It cannot be killed, it cannot be dried, it cannot be wet, it cannot be so many things burnt. But he can be distracted into again entering the cycle of birth and death, which does have a definition, samsara. And samsara is an unbroken repetition of birth and death. Unbroken. Until you come in contact with the spiritual master. So this concept of infinity we should take very seriously. Not to enter into that repeated cycle of birth and death. And the only way to avoid it is to become enlightened while you have the opportunity in this human form of life. And the basic enlightenment probably gives emphasis that one should dehino sminyata dehe kumaram yovanam jara. Tata dehantara praptir dearest tatanamurite. That this changing bodies from one station to another, from boyhood to youth to old age to death, that the self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. So we have to become fully fixed in this concept that I am not this body. And even many devotees, after coming, still they're not free from this bodily consciousness. Still one is thinking, I'm Indian, I'm American, I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm man, woman. These are all, what's that called? Upadi, unwanted designations. Sarvapadi vinir muktam tapparatvena nirmalam rishikesha rishikena sevanam bhaktir uchite. And one becomes free from these unwanted designations by serving Rishikesh, the master of the senses, Krishna. Then he becomes free. Then he realizes, I'm not this body. And he can fully surrender in this state of mind to his spiritual master. Otherwise, someone will say, why should I accept this old Indian gentleman? He doesn't look like me. He doesn't talk like me. He's not coming from my culture. He's not coming from my neighborhood. There's no one self-realized came from Hell's Kitchen, where I took birth. So who should you follow? All right, this is so people are conditioned like this, that they know I have to identify with someone who looks like me or talks like me. Or no, we're not these bodies. By some arrangement, I have taken birth in this body. By some arrangement, someone else has taken birth in a different body. But the body is simply that designation. In the military, it's very clearly said, what? We all bleed red. Because on the battlefield, no one is thinking, what is this person's bodily situation? No. So they have that famous poem, that band of brothers, that he who fights with me, who bleeds with me, that they are the band of brothers. So in that sense, we also have this, someone's at the door. In that sense, we also have an opportunity to appreciate how we are situated in this family. We've been given a great opportunity that this God family is not easily attained. It only comes after many, many births. Bahunam jamanamante gyanavam mahaprapadante Vasudeva Savamiti Samahatma Sudurbaha. Only Bahunam jamanama, after many, many births, he was actually a knowledge, surrendered unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. There's a very more wisdom in this Bhagavad Gita. If anyone takes the time to read Bhagavad Gita, unless he is completely a rascal, he must realize that, yes, this is the highest knowledge. There is no higher knowledge. There's no place where such intimate information of the absolute truth is given. No scripture. We have studied all. I have studied all these so-called sub-religious principles. All right. And nothing comes close. People like to argue, no, this, that, that. No. They want to say all paths lead to, no, it's not the correct. You know, even in the material world, if you have a GPS, many times it takes you to the wrong destination. It takes you on the wrong path, and you go around and round and round. Yes, maybe you'll get to the correct destination at some point. But many people, because they don't know what is the destination, how can they achieve it? They don't know that to go back home, back to God, is the highest goal of life. They think, no, I'll be satisfied if I go to heaven and I get 72 virgins, or I get this. No, this is all phantasmagoria. They picture heaven as simply an elevated material situation. They're sitting at the table with their family eternally. Who would want to sit at a table with your family eternally? You know, you got the bad uncles and the bad aunties and the bad brothers. Oh, who wants to sit with them? Eternally? That's not heaven. That's hell. But they don't understand. We have the pictures of the spiritual world. Prabhupada said, these are the windows of the spiritual world. We have Lord Chaitanya with his eternal Sankirtan party. Yes, that I could go with. Who would not want to be there? Or with Srila Prabhupada in Tompkins Square Park. Who would not want to be there? What intelligent person would say that, no, I'll pass on that? No. So it is simply a choice. Everything is a choice. We have a choice to mold our lives in such a way, following the orders of the spiritual master, to attain the highest perfection of human life, simply by following the order of the spiritual master. And what did Prabhupada give us many times over the course of how many years did Srila Prabhupada spend on this planet? 1965 to 1977. Barely 12 years. And look what he accomplished. And even in this, he said, there's no need to read many books. I've given you everything. But still someone is thinking, no, I don't feel satisfied. Why? If someone is not satisfied after reading Prabhupada's books, then he has not read Prabhupada's books. He had not punya shravana kirtana, yabhadrantas. He has not purified his heart, and his hearing has not been effective. It's like a person hard of hearing. Sometimes I have to say, what did you say? Please repeat that. So this hardness of hearing is there due to material contamination. So what is that first instruction that Lord Chaitanya is giving us? That we're chanting Shikshastakam every morning. Chaita darpan marjanam bhava mahada vadi nirvapanam shayakaya vachanda kavitanam vidya vadu jivanam. This is everything. Lord Chaitanya left 8 shlokas. And everything is condensed into those 8 shlokas. And one can expand. Yes, we want to know more. We want to hear more. It's relishable. One wants to hear continuously about Krishna. But that relishing has to be for a purpose. It's not sense gratifying. Not that I'm like going to the movies to be entertained. This is not literature for my personal entertainment. This is meant to have an impact on the impious world. Right. So that first verse there, Janma Dasyataha Anvayarita Sa'ateshu Abhigyasurat. That information has to be there. That purpose has to be there. And without that purpose, then why is anyone reading the other 12 cantos? They cannot even understand the first shloka, the first in that compendium of knowledge. So we have to understand the purpose, we have to understand the meaning, and then we have to take action. And action means, yes, I must purify myself. I must pass along the message as I have heard it without adulteration. Following the instructions of my spiritual master, I should execute my duty, because disciple means discipline. Every one of us has been given that information. Just by chanting 16 rounds and following these 4 regulative principles, this knowledge becomes manifest clearly within the heart. Like that verse, Sarvasya Chaham Rajasani Vishto. It's not a matter of acquiring knowledge, it's a matter of becoming purified. Because this knowledge is there. What is the nature of the living entity? What is that description? Sat Chit Ananda. Everything is already there. This is our constitutional position. Sat means eternal, Chit means full of knowledge, and Ananda means full of bliss. But I am covered over now, so I'm not experiencing these things. But to the degree that I purify my existence, to that degree they will manifest. As you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. Krishna is rewarding you. He's not giving you some coins to put in a wallet. Not digital, not crypto, not this, not that. How is he rewarding you? What does that mean? What is the reward? I reward you accordingly. He rewards you by giving you knowledge of him. This is the highest reward. That your heart becomes purified. Vidu noti suritsatam. And then you can realize that, yes, this is reality. The eternal pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the reality. I'm living in the illusion. So then I can fix myself. Yes, I want to live in that permanent reality. I will tolerate this temporary reality as long as I have this material body. You cannot accelerate it. Everyone is destined to exist for a certain amount of time. If you commit suicide, you don't get any benefit. You go back to square one. You go worse to square one. Everyone remembers what happens in the Shastra if a person commits suicide? It becomes what? Ghost. Becomes a ghost. People don't realize what is the nature of subtle material existence. They either think it's a fairy tale or they have great fear of it, one or the other. But once one has the knowledge, then he's no longer intimidated by this. The subtle, just like when you dream at night. You can have a nightmare or you can have a fantasy. All right? Both have a reality, but limited. In the nightmare, one is, of course, in great tribulation, that I'm being chased by some monster who's going to kill me or eat me or something. His heart rate increases. He begins to sweat. He can even die out of fear. Such things have happened. He can die out of fear, even though it's not real. In the same way, sometimes he experiences great pleasure in a dream, and he wants it to never end. Sometimes he wakes up and he wants to go back to sleep to finish the dream. This is the nature of illusion. Even in this present waking state, we're thinking, no, I want to have happiness on a continuous stream. No. So we have to be satisfied with this temporary reality in order to get to the point where we can achieve that eternal nature. Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvatah tyakpadeyam purna janma nayati mamiti soja. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and disappearance, for him, he doesn't take birth again. And at the end, he comes to me. So Krishna is promising. Krishna is promising. Everywhere in the Bhagavad Gita, every page, if you are reading carefully, you see how Krishna is giving you that direct information, how to come to him. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji manmasku mami vajasi satyam te pratijani priyoshime. He's telling you, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your praise to me. You will come to me without fail. Why? Because you're my very dear friend. Krishna is our dearmost friend. Just like if you have a dear friend, you don't want to disappoint him. You want to associate with him. You want to make sure, you ask all the time, he says, is everything okay? You want to do everything with that friend. That is the nature of friendship. It's not based on simply some reciprocal sense gratification. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. No. A real friend is there in times Apatya Matsyam, what's that verse in Hitopanishad? A friend is tested in times of distress, right? In times when one is poverty-stricken, and there's a few other times. But that's how you tell who is your friend. Famous verse from Hitopanishad, but I don't remember it exactly. A hero is tested in time of war. So all these things are there. That's how you can know. But a friend in times of distress, then he's there for you. Right? But it is not without end. There has to be reciprocation. All right? So without reciprocation, then it is all one-sided. People have heard that. They'll say, you'll hear it sometimes, it's just a one-sided relationship. What does that mean, one-sided relationship? There's no reciprocation. You're doing something, but you're not getting anything in return. Yes, it's not like that. In the animal kingdom, faithfulness is, the epitome of faithfulness is what animal? The dog. 11th canto, probably, it's not probably, but it's described in the Bhagavatam, that the dog is the epitome of faithfulness. He will not abandon the master. He will remain even if the master doesn't treat him properly. So the dog is the emblem of faithfulness, even though it's considered to be a low animal. But it's, of course, he's been elevated by many civilizations as man's best friend. Why? Because he doesn't abandon him. You may be abandoned by family, friends, wife, children, but your dog will never abandon you. Man's best friend. Very interesting. In any case, our best friend is the spiritual master. And any person who is encouraging you and helping you to maintain your vows of faithfulness to the spiritual master. So that is a true friend. Not the friend who says, let's go out and we'll go eat at the restaurant down the block, or we'll go to the movies, or we'll go here, or we'll go there. No, he's not your friend. Your friend says, let's go to the temple. We'll go see the devotees. We'll go take the Sunday feast. We'll go do some service. That's a friend. And we should try to remember, who is that friend? And that friend even has a name. That's a Vatma Pradaksha Guru. That person who first brings you to Krishna consciousness. He may not himself have remained, but somehow or other he introduced you. So he's considered to be one of your gurus. Person who first introduces you. It's like maybe the first person who introduces you to your future wife. He may no longer have any part in any of your relationships, but that person introduced you to a person who you're married to for 50 years. So he had some role to play. So we acknowledge that. So we have to be, at every step, we should be grateful to those who have assisted us in our Krishna consciousness. Don't be ungrateful. But we reserve the essence of our gratitude to the spiritual master, because it is by his connection to Krishna that you go back home, back to Godhead. Any questions? Bhakti Dustin, loud.
Your last class, you mentioned something about memory, Sudar. Was it a term called Sudar? About remembering Krishna's instruction? Sutidar.
Shrutidar, yes.
Shrutidar.
Very good. So you have a very good memory.
But my pronunciation is improper.
Oh, that's okay. Shrutidara means once having heard, one never forgets. But Prabhupada defines it as I understood from Prabhupada's purport that this is not that one remembers every single aspect of every, like hearing, reading the Bhagavatam, and remembering word for word, but that one understands the essence. And in understanding the essence, so Prabhupada gave that information here. That act according to the instructions of the spiritual master, that is the way of perfection. There need be no anxiety over attaining perfection, because if one follows the instructions given by the spiritual master, he is sure to attain perfection. Our only concern should be how to execute the order of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is expert in giving special instructions to each of his disciples. And if the disciple executes the order of the spiritual master, that is the way of his perfection. Even Prabhupada told us, generally speaking, someone said, well, he didn't instruct me personally. Why not? Prabhupada said, if you love me, distribute my books. If you love me, cooperate. These are direct instructions. Anyone can distribute Prabhupada's books. Everyone should distribute Prabhupada's books. When someone comes to the temple, it's not that someone says, well, wait, let me go get a book distributor. I can't distribute this book. I'm just a pot washer. No. Everyone can distribute these books. We don't want to elevate ourselves to some seemingly so-called transcendental upadi. It's still an upadi. If someone is thinking I am a pujari, that is also an artificial designation. If someone is thinking I'm a book distributor, that is also an artificial designation. I am a servant to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am a servant to my spiritual master, and my service is to distribute these books. But my service may be something else as well. So one should not encumber oneself with any designation. You should simply think, I am a servant of Krishna. I am a servant of my spiritual master. Whatever he instructs me to do, I will do. So Shrutidhar means to understand the essence, not to have a photographic memory or a perfect memory in hearing or seeing. Thank you for that question, Bhakti Dasa. Did that answer?
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Everyone is Shrutidhar? Everyone has now understood the essence of Prabhupada's instructions, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions? One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer all respects to others. Such a state of mind one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So we're very fortunate to be in that atmosphere. Here there's no distraction. Such a sacred place. The temple is such a sacred place. It is not just a building of four walls and a roof, no. It is a sacred place. It is where the holy name is chanted. It is where activities are performed simply for the pleasure of Sri Sri Radha Govinda and for no one else. Nothing is here for my pleasure, and everything is here for their pleasure. And with that consciousness, I should go throughout the day thinking in that way. How can I please their lordships? How can I please Srila Prabhupada? Then his life is perfect. His life is perfect. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Jai.